Welcome to the Success Journey Show. Let's travel together through the lives of individuals on the road to success.
Hey, what's going on, world? We are back with you again for another week of the Success Journey Show, man. We are so glad to be with you. This is Ricky Ventures, and I'm here with none other than Marlon Madden. Marlon, what's good, bro?
Yo, I'm chilling like a villain, my brother.
Hope you're not chilling as much as you were a few weeks ago, man.
Oh, no. My body kind of got acclimatized to the weather over here, leaving Cali. You know what I'm saying? So, and the weather over here has been a little better.
Yeah. No,
and I'm wrapped up a little more.
You're wrapped up. Got the long johns on, man.
Yeah. Hey, and you know I gotta tuck it in my sock because I'm a Marine, man. I can't let people see I got long johns.
It's funny, man, because my son, man, he's just like in love with long johns right now. One of my sons, every time he gets home from school, like he just strips down into his long johns. I'm like, yo, what is going on, man?
Crazy.
He doesn't have like tons of pairs of long johns. So my Nicole looked at him the other day and was like, man, how many times you gonna wear those long johns, man? This is the last day, man. That's it,
Yeah, man.
So put on your other pajamas, man. But yeah, they love themselves some long johns. But hey, they definitely keep you warm. They definitely keep you warm.
Hey, we do it in the military too. We just call it cold weather gear.
Yeah, there you go. Something fancy.
Yeah, we have something fancy for it. We just call it cold weather gear. We don't want to call it long johns. We call it cold weather gear.
You know, it's funny. 'Cause I remember back in the day, man, before they even came out with the Under Armour, man, my mom put us on like tights. We were playing football. And I was in love with some tights, man. Every time the temperature dropped, I said, I got to get my tights, put my tights on, man. So I'm sitting there practically stockings out there playing football. And but that was before the Under Armour joint came out and made it cool. But I want to believe that I helped Under Armour, become what it is today. Because even though they didn't know it was Under Armour, it had that same look to it. So yeah, man, I'm gonna hold on to my tights to the day I die, man. I don't wear them now, but I definitely will advocate for them.
You can say whatever you say, man. Yeah. I know you wear tights.
But yeah, man, we gonna get on with it today. We got another great guest for everyone today in the world, man. This guest, man, he's a close friend, close brother, family to us, man. His name is Earl Campbell, not just Earl Campbell, Dr. Earl Campbell. As the first Black Advanced Endoscopy Fellow at Yale University, Dr. Earl Campbell is already on his way to a promising career in the medical industry. Doctor, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well, man. I'm just trying to process what I heard a while ago. the whole stockings and football situation.
Hey, man, don't knock it till you try it.
I've heard that
before. Earl, man, thanks so much for joining us on the Success Journey podcast, man.
No problem.
Oh yeah, absolutely, bro. Absolutely.
Glad to be
absolutely, here. Man. Hey, man, why don't you start off just telling us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll just jump right into it.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I'm currently at Yale University, completing my gastroenterology and hepatology fellowship. I'm in my third year right now. So gastroenterology is the study of the digestive tract, and hepatology is specifically the liver. So those all work together, and I'm specializing right now. In order to kind of get to that point, after college, I did 4 years of med school. I did that at University of Maryland. I went to Howard University for undergrad, and then University of Maryland for med school. And then I stayed at Maryland for my residency, where I was there for 3 years. I was fortunate enough to be selected as a chief resident, so I stayed there an additional year. And then after finishing that, I moved up here to Yale in Connecticut in 2016. And I'm now in my third year fellowship. I'll be staying on. I would be 3 years total for the fellowship. So I will be completing that in 2019 next summer. But I also matched to stay an additional year for an advanced fellowship, just focused on advanced interventional endoscopy. So when all is said and done, it sounds like a lot, med school, and then about 8 years of training after that. So yeah, about 12 years after college, I'm in my 30s, still trying to, still grinding on it.
Yeah, man. Hey, respect.
It just, when I was saying it out loud, I was like, man, this is just tiring. I was like, man, I'm just getting worn down just saying this. Let's talk about it.
Oh, man. So you said, so all the numbers that you gave us was asked after your after undergraduate, right? So,
yeah. So 12 years after undergrad, when I'm finishing everything, I'm in that 11th year right now.
My goodness. And then some one day somebody's gonna you're gonna be a doctor somewhere and somebody's gonna second guess you. After 12 years. Doctor, you sure? You sure, Doc?
I need to get a second opinion.
But WebMD said.
Yeah. So 16 years in total when you get done, you'll be in school, man. Like, some people can't even fathom that. Like, 16 years. I mean, some people are struggling with just saying, I got to go to school for 4 years. I know some people that are struggling to say, I got to go to school for 2 years. Some people don't even want to take a 6-month certification class, but yet you've been doing this thing for almost going to be 16 years at the completion. Man, what's the secret, man? Like, how do you stay focused and locked in for that long?
Well, the good thing is, so, the 4 years of college and 4 years of med school, the additional training afterward, I mean, it's your job as well. You get paid. You don't get paid a lot. You get a little something to help you get by, to keep moving. But I feel like people feel that when they think about all the training that you have to do after med school, they think that your life is on hold during that period of time. And it's not. I mean, I got married right after, or about 3 weeks after I graduated from med school. And then my first year, a little bit more than halfway through my first year fellowship, my wife and I had a set of twins, one boy, one girl. So it's not like I'm waiting until I finish all my training before then I decide I want to have a family. I know probably, the training for me has been long. I know it probably seems even longer for my wife because I've been training the entire time we got married. But yeah, you just, if you're thinking about getting married, you don't have to fill them in on all those details from the beginning. You just got to lock it in, And then, it's like, well, these are what the vows that we said. So you're in there for the long haul, So I keep telling her, babe, just stick with me. I know we got married in 2012, but, I got you back in 2020.
Yo,
can I hold $2?
He's a doctor and a comedian, man. Oh my goodness.
Oh man, I don't even know. Yo, crazy, man.
Hey, I think Earl forgot one of the biggest things to tell everyone, man. I have to apologize to the people out there because if me and Earl just start breaking out in some patois, I'm saying both of us are from Jamaica, so if we just start talking about some rice and peas and chicken, just Ricky just pretend like we talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even that is a whole other complicated, not even complicated, but my parents are from Jamaica. After they got married, they moved to the Bahamas. They lived there for a few years. I was actually born there. Before we moved to the States. So people ask where I'm from sometimes. It's like, you want the long or the short answer.
Wow. So tell us about just before you started the journey and getting in, when you're transitioning from high school into college, did you know that you were going to go into medicine? Was that your desire?
So I knew I was going to go into medicine, but interestingly, it was veterinary medicine. So pretty much from when I was a kid up until the summer after my freshman year of college, I was pretty set that I wanted to be veterinarian. That summer after my first year of college, I was working at a the surgical research lab down at Vanderbilt that summer. So I got to work with the animals and some veterinarians, DVM, doctors of veterinary medicine, as well as some MDs. And just in discussing with them, I kind of just decided, kind of hit me that summer, that I wanted to use my interest and my skills to help humans. I feel honestly, if I did, still pursue veterinary medicine, I still would have enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. But it was just, at that point, that summer, I decided that I wanted to pursue a MD instead. So fortunately, it still was the same biology major that I was pursuing and the same prerequisites. So it didn't really affect anything in that regard. Okay. But I was always interested in medicine. It was just a different route that I was pursuing initially.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Hey, so Earl, with your parents, and I don't know what kind of occupation your parents then did or do. Were they pushing you to go to medicine, or did they make you make that decision on your own?
No, actually. So my parents are both in the medical field.
Wow.
So my father's physician, he's a pulmonologist.
Oh, wow.
And my mother's a pharmacist. Mm. But I think the great thing about them was they never pushed me in one direction or another in terms of saying, oh, you have to be in the medical field. Mm. In fact, my younger sister, she's an attorney, but we still love her.
Hey, you gonna need her, man. You gonna need her.
Hopefully not, but hopefully maybe just for some contract review.
Malpractice.
No, that's what's up, man. But you would think that, and with both your parents being medical doctors, or not medical doctors, but both being in medicine. How mm-hmm. did it influence you? Even though they didn't push you, how did it influence you when you were making that decision?
Got you. I think, part of the thing that affects what we're interested in going into, is exposure. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the big things that we lack in our communities. A lot of people, how are you going to ask them to be something that they're just not exposed to? So being exposed to that in my home, it was never like, hey, you should do this, you should do that. But, probably just being exposed to that and seeing what my parents did, that may have played a role as well, mm-hmm. For sure. And even deciding to pursue medicine, the fact that I had two individuals in my household that had obtained doctorate degrees in the sciences, I knew that it was possible. Yeah, so I've interacted with multiple individuals on social media, and they don't really have that exposure or examples in their life. And so that's one thing that I think is just, I don't want to go on a tangent on this, but is beneficial about social media is that it now allows people to see other examples of people that look like them in the fields they may be interested in that they probably would have never had exposure to if it wasn't for the far-reaching arms of social media. So
yeah. And that's what Rick and I are trying to promote with this podcast.
Yeah,
is the one thing that we're trying to promote is that no matter your circumstance, no matter your environment, if you mm-hmm. have drive, if you have a dream, a drive, mm-hmm. the discipline and the diligence mm-hmm. and that hard work ethic, background, you'll definitely be able to be successful.
Exactly.
Thank you for listening to the Success Journey Show. Please follow us on our social media on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook at The Success Journey Show. Also, check out our website at thesuccessjourneyshow.com. Thank you for listening and enjoy the rest of the show.
Mm-hmm. And the more exposure, like you said, the more exposure they get on a daily basis, man, just really makes it makes their dream seem much more achievable.
Exactly.
You're seeing regular people that are down to earth, that are doctors, that are lawyers, that are own businessmen, that are teachers or whatever it may be, you're able to see it, rocket scientists, you're able to see them in their daily lives and you're like, wow, they're normal people.
Yeah.
I can be that. I can do that.
And Ricky, your oldest son is how old again?
9.
So when he was born, Obama was the president, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was just like crazy just to think, all three of your children for the early years from when they were born up until, recently, that's all they know. You know what I mean? This drastically different change from us, growing up.
Yeah.
And you have this major example right there on the TV every day of, the leader of the free world, as some will call it, is someone that looks like them.
Correct.
That affects young minds more than people realize.
Absolutely. It becomes a norm to them.
Mm-hmm.
It's a norm to them.
Mm-hmm.
Versus it was an anomaly for us, but for them it was a norm.
And all my children, they're born, 20. Yeah, they're, all they, they're only 21 months old. So we can discuss that another time. But.
Yeah, right.
Hey, Earl, I know it's not all peaches and cream going through all this stuff, and a lot of people
peaches and cream.
Yeah. Should I say something else?
No, I'm sorry. I'm making sure. I'm focused. I'm focused.
All right. So, because a lot of people, some people just say, like, my sister's a lawyer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because ever since she was younger, we knew she was a smart, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So we're just like, oh, she's going to be a doctor, lawyer, because everybody just said, oh, wait, well, it's easy for Waverly. It's easy for Waverly. They give that, oh, it's easy for you. Well, I couldn't do that because I can't do this. So I want people to understand that you go through your hard times too when it comes to this route or this journey that you're on.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I failed tests during med school. For sure. I would just go home and just go to sleep because my sister would joke on me about that to this day still, how I just go home to sleep. I mean, for example, I think it was during my second year of med school. So we had these 2 blocks. It was called functional systems, like part 1 and 2. So each block is comprised of 3 tests. Right. So no matter what your final average is, if your average is passing for the block, as long as you have to pass, you can only fail 1 test during that block. So say you got 2, like 69s and you got like a 90 on the last test. And so your average was, over 70s passing. If you had failed 2 tests, that's it for the block. And then you probably, if I remember correctly, you have to repeat that whole year. Right? So if that block starts functional systems, I go in there, take the first test, I fail it. So I'm stressed, right? I have 2 tests remaining for that block. I can't fail another one. So I'm just grinding. I do pass the second test, do well in it. Third test, pass it. I'm like, whew, like I'm in the clear. Functional systems, section 2 is coming up. So I'm good. So then me being me, I kind of, I'm like, all right, I'm clear. I'm kind of chill, just chilling. And I failed the first test again for the next block.
Man.
So I'm just like, how did I let this happen again? I got I was just like, oh, okay, I'm good now. Select off and then fill that first test. So then I had to, stressing for the second test again and then the third test. And, Lord willing, it all worked out. But I mean, you're then looking at like a whole half of a year, basically, going through those blocks where after that first test, it's like do or die, in a sense for the next 2 tests. And I put myself in the same situation again for the next block. So, but it all worked out and I was able to get through and still stay on track to finish in the normal time. So
tell me, you told me that, you failed and your first response was to, go to sleep. And the reason why I asked you that question is because, we had someone on our podcast guest on episode number 2, Carlos Hernandez, and he talked about when he went through rough times, he would give himself 24 hours to rebound. And after that 24 hours, it was like, boom, let's go. Whatever happened. Now let me get to it. So tell me on your end, like when now you fail this test, your back is against the wall, you go to sleep, in depression or whatever, just forget about it. Like, what do you do when you wake up?
Man, that day I pretty much, because that was the test day, I pretty much just chilled and did something fun that day, with classmates and then reset and I was ready to go the next day.
Yeah. And when you say ready to go the next day, because listen, man, I've been in those shoes, man. Like, were you like more tense, more laser focused, more like, all right, I need to pay attention to this material a little bit better? Do I got to study harder? You mentioned about distractions earlier. Let us see the picture of it, because there are a lot of students that are out there, man. They don't know what it means to lock down and get laser focused.
Yeah. So for me, it was our class structure, fortunately, was we only had like half a day of class. Basically, we had 2 hours of lecture, and then we'd have 2 hours of small group. So it worked for me because my attention span is short. So we just 2 hours of lecture, focused on that. And then really it was more so coming down to the time that I took to review the material in the afternoon. I do everything from just talking with other people, goofing off, just, being online, just everything but studying. Like, I was the kind of person after class and I'm there, I'm, maybe on Facebook and talking to other people at school. And then it starts getting like late, dark. I'm like, oh man, like I got to review this material, because how the structure was in undergrad, you can get by, just, playing Madden, and then like the night, I probably shouldn't say that. And then like the night before, just cramming and then take it. I pulled some all-nighters, and then like I look back on undergrad, like I don't really look at it as like, there's times you're doing papers and it's kind of stressful, but it was very doable, I'd say. Yeah. And then when you get to med school, and if you go in there kind of with that mentality, it's tough, because you should be each day, you should be like learning that material that was taught to you that more earlier that day, because it's just so much material that you're getting, and then you're going to get a lot more material the next day. So you want to try and get it down each day. For example, like we'd have anatomy, right? So we do all anatomy, and I think it was about a 10-week block. So we'll just have one hour lecture that's like the arm, another hour lecture that's the leg, and the next day you're on to the whole new body. And there's so many, there's bones, vessels, nerves, lymphatic system, and you're learning, so, and then you're moving on to completely another system, body part the next day. So like, you probably heard this a million times, but the saying that people were, drinking out of, or being in college is like drinking out of a water hose, and then med school is like drinking out of fire hydrants. It's definitely real. Just the amount of information that's tossed at you. So you can't pull I'm just going to cram for it the night before the test or like the end of the week. There are very special individuals that I've witnessed this, but the majority of people, it's not going to be the case. Everyone that's there in med school are usually like in the top of their class or did very well. I mean, and these people were grinding when they got to med school and studying. I mean, I did know someone that would sit there and watch all the lectures the night before the test, like on high speed. But that's just how that was. He's a special individual. He'd sit there in the crowd, had his earphones in, just watch through everything. Like, I think it was like 2 times speed, and just absorb it. But I mean, those aren't, that's like saying everyone's going to go out and do a LeBron.
So he had some kind of photographic memory, or some real, he's a real audio, he's a very, very auditory, right? Learner, that guy?
Whatever he had, man, he had something I didn't have. But,
that's crazy.
But yeah, he's definitely blessed in that regard. There are a few people that you come across like that, but for the majority of people, if you're going with the same mindset you may have had in college, to just have fun and party, and then try and just cram the night before, you're going to be destroyed.
Man, listeners, I hope you guys are hearing this, man, because we're talking to a doctor that, everyone holds doctors in high regards. Why? Because they, just like military, they offer a great service to the people and helping to sustain life and protect life as we know it. And the rigorous studies that they have to go through. And I know studying never stops in medicine. There's always a new way of doing things, always finding new procedures and things of that nature to improve medicine. So you're always constantly learning the body and new ways to impact the body. And so I'm hoping we're trying to let you see just a good picture of really what it takes to get there. You know, what a life looks like, you know, from the perspective from a doctor, and how they have to really just be at a point of like, hey, you know what? Not really worrying about the time it takes, but more so perfecting what they're learning so that they can serve the people of this world at a greater capacity, man. So yeah, we definitely appreciate you for
thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
And one thing I also just want to add, this really important, I want to say, for people to learn, and I wish I had done this as early into your just educational training or career, is to figure out best what type of learner you are.
I'm about to ask you that.
And I didn't have a good grasp of that going into med school. And it's bad to say, I just felt that I didn't really, I mean, I studied in undergrad, but not a whole lot. And I found that I was able to do well. I was able to cram and get by. But then when I got to med school, what happened was I didn't really know what my studying style was because I had never developed good study habits.
Mm-hmm.
And so the thing was, it was a struggle for me, was because when I came in, then I'm now seeing everyone doing different things. That have one friend that's doing these whole outlines of rewriting the lecture, basically the lectures in a whole different format. And so, you know, I'm like, maybe I need to be doing that. And I'll see another friend that's, you know, doing flashcards, and I'm like, maybe I should be doing that. So I spent a large part, especially first year, bouncing between doing what other people were doing, and that it would cost me. You know, I didn't do as well as I would have liked because I was still trying to figure out the best study style for me. Interestingly enough, too, you know, to add to that, I would say don't let your standardized test score affect your confidence on how you will do in med school. All right. For example, I had a colleague in med school that had did much better in his MCAT, right? And he was very proud of his MCAT score. So we go into the first test, we start on the anatomy block. I mean, he had the MCAT scoring is different now. So at that time he had over a 40, which is phenomenal. And so he's really, you know, just a very proud guy. He failed the first test of med school. Right. And then my test score was, you know, my MCAT score is but I got above the class average on my first test of med school.
Okay.
But that wasn't the case throughout the rest of med school. And looking back now, I kind of see part of what that was. So anatomy, in comparison to the other classes, that is you have the written part of the test, but then after you have lectures 2 hours a day, then you go to the anatomy lab. So you spend the other 2 hours with your group going through the body, and you're dissecting your cadaver, right? The other classes, the rest of the courses throughout med school, is you have your 2 hours of lecture, and then you go in a small group, you do questions, and you go through whatever it is, whether it's biochemistry, physiology, etc. I think what allowed me to do so well come from college to med school, even though I hadn't developed a good study style, was, and I didn't even really know it at the time, is I was more of a visual and kinesthetic learner.
Yes.
So for me, I did well on that anatomy block starting off that first test, was because in addition to the lectures, we're there going and doing the cadaver. So me dissecting and getting anatomy, I just absorbed that, right? And it was much harder when you're trying to do that from just getting a lecture and when you're doing a biochemistry class. And so for that individual that came in, he may not have been that type of learner. So he may not have done well, but I got above the class average because having that anatomy lab, that actual hands-on component, helped me really absorb the other information that was needed. And I did well. And it wasn't the case for that throughout the rest of med school, because no other classes like that require such hands-on, you know? And so it's really good to, you know, some people work better looking at the slides, just better, or some people look better actually just rewatching the lecture, or some people just listening to it. So it's really good to kind of just figure out early on, whether it's high school, college, what's the best way that you learn? Is it doing flashcards? Is it rewriting things? Is it rewatching the lecture. And the earlier you do that, the much better you're going to do, because you'll be able to hit the ground running with already not spending time that you need to be doing your time studying, spending that time trying to figure out how to study.
You've been listening to the Success Journey Show. You can check us out on our social media on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Also on our website, thesuccessjourneyshow.com. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Man, I think that's important. I think that's really important. A summer I did that with my kids. I did that test that I got it offline, that you could just see what kind of learning style. And I was trying to help them understand that not everyone learned the same way, just like you're saying. And I think a lot of parents should take that into consideration, because they have one child that they're doing phenomenal. They're standardized testing, they'll blow it away. And then another one, they're like, "Oh man, you can't spell rat." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's because they haven't tapped into the ability of that person, and that's so powerful. And I hope when people hear this, that they'll take that into consideration, and no matter how old they are, they'll apply those fundamentals.
Yeah, and that also ties into just realizing that how you do on your test, or how you do in, or even just med school. The first 2 years of med school is coursework, and the next 2 years are your clinical work. I wouldn't say that there's really much. I don't feel there's much correlation at all between how someone does the first 2 years and how they do when they're on the wards. You know, and if you can name off whatever diseases, et cetera, from a textbook during your first 2 years, it doesn't mean you're going to be a great surgeon. You know, you may not have the good spatial recognition. You may not have good hand-eye coordination. So it's very easy for people to get discouraged, because the first year how we had it, our scores, and we got the score immediately at the end of the test. And then when it popped up online later, it was either green, meaning above average. I think orange is below average, and there's just red if you fail, like your score was actually a certain color. So you can go through all, and you're like, man, all I'm seeing is orange. I'm, below average. That doesn't affect at all how you're going to be a doctor. And I've seen some people that are very intelligent, and they don't even have they don't have the social skills either. So there's a lot of things that go into play in the doctor. So if you're in a procedural specialty, it's a hand-eye coordination, actual spatial recognition, actually, the actual, reaction time, those things go into play. There's also the social interaction. You got to be able to interact with other doctors. You got to be able to know how to talk to patients. You got to know how to deliver information, deliver bad news. And there's actual getting the knowledge. And the honest truth is, getting the knowledge really is it's not necessarily how much you know, but being able to knowing how to get the information that you need.
Okay.
Especially in this day and age.
Correct.
Like Ricky had pointed out, there's so much new information that's coming about. What you learn in med school, then by the time years later in residency, those things are changing. So it's not a matter of being able to just off the top of your head know every disease and how to treat everything. But if you know how to look up and, whether it's search primary literature and to get the information to your problem, you're going to be in good hands. No one's expecting you to always just have the information off the top of your head. There's just way too much information. But if you know how to get access to information, that's fine. You can get the information, but can you actually care for the patient? You can't just go online and just figure out how to care for the patient. You have to know how to appropriately diagnose, to treat. You can get the information, but you also have to talk with the patient, have good social skills. And you also have to, if you're in a surgical procedure specialty, you have to have the actual tactile skills.
Hey, you know what? I'm going to switch gears real quick, man, because for those that are out there in the world, man, Earl has a very active Instagram page, Earl Campbell MD. So I encourage you to go out there and follow him to see the real life of Dr. Earl here in action. But Earl, man, I've had your page up, man. I was going through it, and there was a couple things I wanted to point out. One was you are the first Black advanced endoscopy fellow at Yale. That is a huge honor, man. Like talk to us about that, man. What did it feel to be able to say that you're the first Black male that has been in this program?
It's a great feeling. So right now I'm in my general GI fellowship still right now, gastroenterology, hepatology. So in that program, I'm actually the second Black male fellow in the whole, just the GI, the history of the program. And then I matched to do, starting from the year 2019 to 2020, I'll be doing the advanced endoscopy fellowship, and I'll be the first Black fellow, period, male or female. And I mean, it's a great feeling. I was actually shocked. I didn't know until when I started my GI fellowship here that I was the second Black male fellow. And what was shocking to me was that the current one of the current third year fellows at that time when I started, he was the first. He was the one that told me.
Wow.
And I was like, wow. I was like, I'm starting in 2016. He started 2 years before me. He was the first Black male in the history of the program.
Wow.
And then when I tracked back, I knew the other two. I'd met the other two Black fellows in the past that were women. I was like, man, that's kind of crazy that I know the four, or three other individuals that were all Black fellows at Yale. And that just shows that, we've come a good way, but we still have a long ways to go. And then being able to then go on and do the advanced fellowship and knowing that I'll be the first Black fellow there in that capacity, it's really an honor. And at the same time, it just kind of gives me additional motivation, because one of the things that motivates me on a regular basis is knowing that everything that I'm doing is not just reflective of me or my family, but it's reflective of the African American community as a whole. And how you perform, how you act can open or close doors for other people behind you.
That's a big burden.
Yeah.
And someone can easily be like, oh man, and maybe consciously or subconsciously, some people just say, oh yeah, man, we had another guy that looked like him before. And he was just, this person was just lazy, dragging his feet, not doing what he needed to do. And then, in the back of their minds, it's just like, this person isn't a good fit for our program. But if, when they see that picture of another applicant that is Black, and especially when there's only one or two that they've worked with before, and they're like, man, you know what? That guy, we had another African-American guy, and he was on top of it. You know what I mean? Yeah. They're going to have that positive association, and you open the door for someone else behind you. Yeah. So I just felt, I wouldn't necessarily say it was a burden, it was kind of an honor, to everything that I do. I really try and make sure that I just do my best at it, because I know that people are watching.
Yeah. Nah, that's huge, man. That's huge. I'm glad you expounded on it, man, because, just in spaces in general, when you start going up in careers and higher levels, it's not as diverse as it should be, whether it's African American, whether it's women in general, whatever, no matter what race it is, whether it's Latino, Hispanic, just all those different things. It lacks diversity when you start growing higher and higher in leadership, and just seeing the people that are pioneering the ways there to build those pathways for those that come behind, man, it's huge. It's a huge burden, but at the same time, it's a huge honor, and it's also an exciting journey.
Definitely. Do you have, Earl, do you have any mentor or coaches that you keep to keep you honest? Be accountability partner?
From a career standpoint?
Correct.
I have a couple of mentors, more than one people that I'll say are mentors that I have reached out to along the way. There was an African-American physician at Hopkins at the same time I was at Maryland. When I was a fourth year med student, I went and did an away rotation there. I met him, and he wrote a letter for me for residency. And even when I was putting together my rank list for match or fellowship, I went over there and reviewed it with him. Because I actually, in terms of advanced endoscopy, I know a handful of Black advanced endoscopists in this country. And so having someone that was a gastroenterologist is also African-American, it was good to have that role model. And there's also just other individuals I have here at Yale that I've done research with that, if I have questions, that I can just reach out to. But having a a mentor is very important.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, one other question I want to ask you. Verified healthcare. Verified healthcare, man. I saw this campaign and I saw a lot of doctors out there on their social media, you know, joining this campaign saying they're verified health. Does this have to do anything with that doctor kid, man, that was practicing
down in Florida?
Dr. Love.
Yo, that dude, but how did he pull it off so long?
I don't know, man. I don't know how he fooled so many people for so long.
And he had an office and everything.
Then I thought he got caught up.
Yes, he did. 2 separate occasions.
Yeah, man, that's the truest definition of fake it till you make it. He didn't make it though, but
hey, but he died. He probably diagnosed a couple people, right? I guess.
I don't know about that.
Like,
guess what time will tell.
Oh,
yeah, but no, there was no relation to that. It was more so just on Instagram. There are individuals out there that misrepresent themselves, and there's a growing number of users of social media that use social media or get health information from social media. And so it's important that people know who they're actually getting their information from. And in medicine tends to be very old school. They're always a little bit behind in terms of catching up with the times. And we're now starting to see a rise of physicians on social media. And I think it's important because you'll always be having people distributing health information on social media. This is a matter of, there's the older school physicians that feel like, oh, we shouldn't be doing this on social media. But it's a matter of, if we don't do it, then who are you letting to drive the narrative?
Yeah.
So if you don't, then you're going to have these other individuals that aren't qualified driving the narrative. And it's up to us to provide correct information out there,
Yeah.
So it's important in that regard. But
no, that's good.
Yeah, no, Dr. Love wasn't involved, I'm really curious now. What's his current status?
I think he's in some big trouble. Me, I'll tell you, Earl, being Jamaican, I'd ask my grandmother, I'd come and I'd have like 5 cuts in my head. My stomach would be inside out. And my grandmother would be like, hey, just drink some Cersei. You'll be all right.
And it worked too.
Yeah, it did.
It worked.
It did.
It worked.
It did. She cut some bushes outside and put it in the pot and boiled it up, and I drank it, and I was running around in the yard again.
Hey, they say if you never go to the doctor or the hospital, you never get diagnosed. There's these people that come to the hospital like 80 years old. They're like, what do you mean I have high blood pressure, diabetes, cancer? They'd be like, I was fine until I came here. Like, you weren't fine. You just didn't know that you weren't fine. We're just telling you this. It's been here.
Oh, man. Well, Earl, man, this has been a great conversation. I know it's going to be one of many. Really appreciate you just jumping on and just sharing your story with the world, man. You share so many nuggets and so many different aspects of your life and your journey. And I know that, you're still on your quest to finish up your 16 years of study.
Why are you stressing 16?
He made it seem like I did a bit. About I got a year and a half left.
Left.
Writing on the walls.
Yeah, 2020 is going to be an amazing year, man. 2020. Everyone's looking forward to it.
Like I'm penning letters.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait for me. Wait for me.
No, man, definitely appreciate you, man. So I know I did mention your Instagram page, man. Are there any other places that anyone can find anything about you or connect with you, or is that you're the best way of following?
Yeah, Instagram. I utilize Instagram the most. I also have the same handle for Twitter. It's Earl Campbell MD. So feel free to slide in the DMs as long as it is, career related. I don't really want those types of problems. So,
nah, man, I love it, man. I remember Earl did one thing one time. It's on Instagram. You can ask a question. And you had some really good questions, man, come at you, man, and some great responses to those questions to some younger students or people that are in med school and things of that nature, or just had questions about the medical journey and the studies in that nature. So, yeah, man, take advantage of it, man. He's here. He's available. He's really trying to... wait a minute. Yeah,
you got to word that correctly.
He is not available. That way.
So he's going to listen to podcasts like,
It's like, what in the world? No, he's available to answer questions about the medical field for you. Not himself personally. But but yeah, man, we really thank you. And we thank all of our listeners for chiming in. This podcast, we were recording early, so it will be released. You guys will probably be hearing this around Christmas time, actually, right before Christmas. So for all those that are out there shopping and getting ready for Christmas, we hope that you are, being safe, not spending too much money.
Yep. And spend what you got. Spend what you got.
Spend what you have, and that you are enjoying this Christmas holiday. So we're going to sign off now and say thank you for listening to another episode of the Success Journey Show, and we will see you, or we'll be with you again. Not see you. We'll be with you again next week at the same time. All right. Peace, everyone.
One love.
You've been listening to the Success Journey Show, where your dreams, drive, determination, and diligence are the foundation to success. For more information, check out thesuccessjourneyshow.com. The Journey Squad is here helping you to your destination.